Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Hollywood panics as studios lose millions from weak 2023 box office. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from the Hollywood Reporter Studio Profit Report, a year of major transition. Overall, only one studio, and that one studio was NBC Universal, among all Hollywood conglomerates, posted profit growth for the calendar year of 2023. Disney did the worst. The most profit was from Warner Bros. Discovery as the largest amount of profit. The highest amount of growth was NBC Universal. But let's get into the details. The calculations can be difficult, though. Keep in mind that financial disclosures for studios' movie units are really limited and are not easily comparable, and that's for a few reasons. The names alone vary of the different movie divisions. Paramount reports figures for its filmed entertainment unit. Warner Bros. Discovery and Comcast post results for their studios divisions, and Sony has its pictures unit. The businesses that they include in those units differ as well. For example, Sony Pictures segment includes their TV networks. And not all studio operations use the same accounting methodology, which makes direct comparisons difficult. When we talk about accounting methodology, it gets complicated. Disney takes advantage of this, but many of the studios, of course, take advantage of this. This is their financial reporting. So if they say, for example, they spend $200 million on a movie, how many years of useful life does that movie have? When you buy an asset, like a commercial building, how many years is that commercial building going to still be around? Is it going to be around for 1 year, 2 years, 100 years? Those are different accounting methodologies to account for the cost of the building. Same with making movies. Same with making entertainment content. How many years is that TV show or that movie going to be viable for? 5 years? 10 years? There are some general accounting principles that the studios are going to follow. But at the same time, they have a lot of ways of adjusting those numbers. And we've all heard about Hollywood accounting, how they manipulate the amount of profit they have to reduce payouts to profit participants like actors or producers or other investors in their projects. So it does get a little bit confusing. But the Hollywood Reporter does a pretty good job here breaking down profits and losses. The annual Studio Profit Report also includes an educated look at Disney, even though it doesn't disclose figures for its film or studio operations per se. The Hollywood Reporter is instead looking at Disney's content sales and licensing and other financial report, which financial analysts say provide the closest comparable numbers. Also, the figures are for the calendar years 2023 and 2022, even though Disney and Sony have fiscal years that don't align with the calendar year, and their executive teams manage their businesses with an eye on the fiscal year. So they manage the numbers, and we're aware of that. But the basic numbers do not lie. NBC Universal had the best year for profit growth. Their profit was $1.3 billion, which was a 35% year-over-year increase. Their revenue was down by 6% at $11.6 billion. And while revenue is important, profit is really all important. Universal's breakout year was led by the number 2 film, The Super Mario Bros. Movie, with $1.36 billion in worldwide revenue in 2023. Number 3's Oppenheimer was $958 million, almost $1 billion on Oppenheimer. Incredible. And the number 5 biggest movie of the year was Fast 10 at $705 million. Those and the rest of its 24 movies released drove the studio to $4.91 billion in global box office revenue in 2023, up 26%, and allowing it to snatch the top spot from Disney, which had been the leader since 2016. Universal has even been beating Disney in animation, which is pretty incredible. Disney has Disney's animation, they have Pixar. There's really no reason why Disney, if they were actually focused on their business, shouldn't at least be number 1 in animation. Other revenue, consisting of the sale of physical and digital home entertainment products, as well as the production and licensing of live stage performances and the distribution of content produced by third parties, climbed 1% to $1.3 billion. Universal's bottom line was also helped by a more than 8% decline in expenses, led by a more than 9% drop in programming and production costs to just below $8 billion, helped by the 2 strikes that year, and a 7% decrease in marketing and promotion to below $1.6 billion, and a minimal decline in other costs to $808 million. Over at Warner Bros. Discovery, they had a profit of $2.2 billion, which was a 19% reduction year over year, and a revenue of $12.2 billion, which was a 12% reduction year over year. But they were still the most profitable studio of the year. Warner Bros. Margot Robbie blockbuster Barbie led the box office in 2023 with $1.4 billion in worldwide revenue for the year, providing a big chunk of the studio's $3.9 billion in total global theatrical revenue, up 61% from 2022. The low-budget horror movie The Nun 2 was also a profitable success, and Wonka found its audience, but DC movies such as Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and The Flash underperformed at the box office. Blue Beetle also did pretty badly. Hogwarts Legacy boosted the studio's gaming revenue and profit for the year, while TV revenue was down, affecting the bottom line. All in all, studio's unit revenue for the year dropped more than 10%, primarily driven by lower TV revenues, which more than offset higher games revenue from the release of the Hogwarts Legacy and higher theatrical revenue from the release of Barbie. Warner Bros. Discovery explained that TV revenue was adversely impacted by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes and certain large licensing deals in the prior year, as well as fewer series sold to our own platforms and fewer CW series. Studio earnings took nearly a 20% hit, affected by the lower revenue and higher marketing expenses for a larger theatrical slate, 13 movies compared to 7 in 2022, and Hogwarts Legacy, partially offset by lower TV content expense commensurate with lower revenues. However, their studio segment again brought in the biggest profit among Hollywood conglomerates, just like in 2022, 2021, and 2020. Over at Paramount Global, which looks like their CEO is going to be leaving. From the New York Post, Paramount CEO expected to resign after clashing with Shari Redstone. This is all over Paramount having to do a deal to sell itself because their financials are so off. They're losing so much money in streaming. And here's what's up with their film profits. Their film profits are off $119 million, 144% year over year. Their revenue is off 19% at $3 billion year over year. The studio released 8 films in 2023, the lowest number of all Hollywood studios, but just as many in 2022. Among them are also the likes of Transformers: Rise of the Beast, Paw Patrol, Scream 6, Dungeons & Dragons, and Killers of the Flower Moon. However, the company's theatrical revenue of $813 million ended up 34% below 2022, while licensing and other revenue dropped 14% to $2.1 billion. Paramount's overall filmed entertainment revenue fell 20%, which, quote, partially reflects lower theatrical and licensing revenues driven by the success of Top Gun: Maverick in 2022, according to the company. As a result of the revenue decline, as well as incremental costs incurred during production shutdowns and lower revenues from studio rentals and production services. And that means the studio's backlot business where they allow other people to film projects there. Paramount's filmed entertainment unit swung from a profit to a $119 million loss in 2023. Management highlighted how much theatrical drives various other parts of Paramount's businesses. Ninja Turtles and Paw Patrol had successful feature films. And those films also drove a broader ecosystem of consumption on linear streaming and at retail. And they're planning on future extensions, including the release of a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series next year and a third Paw Patrol movie in 2026. Over at Sony Pictures, their profit was down 18% year over year at $719 million. Their revenue was $10.3 billion, which was up 2% year over year. Revenue up a little bit, profit down. The studio's biggest 2023 blockbuster was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, whose box office revenue reached $691 million to make it the studio's highest-grossing animated film ever. Other successes of the year included Equalizer 3 and A Man Called Otto, while Gran Turismo and Napoleon underperformed expectations. All in all, motion picture revenue fell 12%, including drops of 9% in theatrical, 31% in home entertainment, 6% in TV, and more than 5% in streaming. And over at Disney, the worst performer of all the studios. Their profit was not actually a profit at all. It was a $666 million loss in their studio division, down from a $20 million loss in 2022. They just can't seem to make money from making movies anymore. Even their revenue was off 8% at $7.8 billion for the year. In Disney's earnings reports last year, they repeatedly pointed to weaker theatrical performances than in 2022, including for The Haunted Mansion compared to Thor: Love and Thunder, Or The Marvels and Wish compared to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Avatar The Way of Water, and Strange World in the prior year. Disney CEO Bob Iger says they're focusing on reinvigorating their creativity and their output. Quote, let's not lose sight of the fact that in the last year, the studio had some real success, not to suggest that we didn't have some films that were not successful, that we were really disappointed in, Iger said on the latest earnings call. Quote, volume sometimes can be detrimental to quality, and in our zeal to greatly increase volume, partially tied to wanting to chase more global subscribers for our streaming platform, some of our studios lost a little focus. So the first step that we've taken is that we've reduced volume. We've reduced output, particularly at Marvel. They've absolutely slashed their output at Marvel. They only have one Marvel film coming out in 2024, and that was a Fox Marvel film. Nothing from the Disney Marvel studio. Disney is praying for some decent results from their 2024 tentpole releases. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Inside Out 2, Deadpool 3, Alien Romulus and Mufasa the Lion King. We'll see how they do. But movies, which used to be a very important business for Disney, is becoming less and less important to them. They're spending $60 billion to build up their existing theme parks. From the Los Angeles Times, why Disney is doubling down on theme parks with a $60 billion plan. Theme parks is pretty much the only sincere growth area for Disney where they can't really lose money. They have that business pretty much figured out. Why the massive investment? At a time when Disney faces revenue challenges due to cord cutting, streaming wars, and a slower film box office, its theme parks are a bright and reliable spot for its business. During the most recent fiscal year, the company's experiences division, which is heavily anchored by the theme parks, brought in about 70% of Disney's operating income, according to a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. By contrast, Disney's sports sector, including ESPN, contributed 19% of operating income. The entertainment division, consisting of the company's TV channels, streaming services, and movie studios, brought in only 11% of their operating income. So the movie business is a percentage of a percentage of a percentage, that percentage being a percentage of 11%. The theme parks is where their income is at. That's Disney today. Hollywood has been struggling because they've been making movies that normal people don't want to see. A movie like Top Gun Maverick made money. To look at Disney's Marvel movies for 2023, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was a bad movie, The Marvels was a terrible movie, and Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was a decent movie. The decent movie made more than $800 million worldwide, and The Marvels did an all-time terrible take for an MCU movie at around $205 million worldwide because it was the worst of all of the Marvel movies ever made. If they would just start to make movies for normal people, they would not be struggling, losing hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, from weak box office results. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.